just be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to yourself, because as you walk through life, there are going to be all kinds of detractors, snipers, people who are just jealous, just down and just straight up haters. People see you, particularly if you, as you're growing up, you're self-contained, confident,
right?
And carry yourself like you're comfortable in your own skin.
Right.
That's very off-putting to a lot of people,
right?
And it can make you want to withdraw from that. From being who you are, because some people who react negatively to you, many people, it's because of your confidence.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be
The journey. The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is
The journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey.
The Journey Initiative is generously supported by Nike's Black Community Commitment. Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today, we've never let you down, and we won't let you down today. But first, before we get to our guest, we have our quote. And I actually want to bounce around two quotes because they really mean the same, and I think it's real important. Number one, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. That comes from American businessman Dan Pena. The second one is really in line with that says, we are the average of 5 people we spend the most time with. That is very important, especially for you young people that are watching this show and that are listening, because we are who we hang around with. And if you got good people around you, chances are you're going to be the fifth or the other good person. But today we have a Memphis-born, Memphis-bred brother straight out of Memphis Catholic. Also, he's a musician, tennis enthusiast, excellent cook, coach, educator, entrepreneur, a great friend, a great son, brother, husband, and an artiste par excellence. And no, I can't speak no French. But nevertheless, today we have my brother, Arnold Thompson. What's up, Arnold?
Hey, man.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Hey, I didn't think I was ever going to get through all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you got so much. This is a real renaissance, man. I ain't lying. This brother bad. I saw him teach himself Spanish. I mean, just an amazing brother.
You're too kind, man. You're embarrassing me.
I don't mean to embarrass you, but I got to let them know that we ain't bringing no slaw in here.
I appreciate it.
So listen, let's start out early on. Tell us about the neighborhood that you first remember being raised and born and all that stuff.
The only Memphis that was not quite accurate, I was born in Birmingham, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's a kind of funny story. I'm the youngest of my family. I have 4 siblings, but my father's job had him in Birmingham at the time that I was born. So everyone else had been born here. All of my siblings, both of my parents, and they happened to be there when I was born. So I lived in Birmingham the first 4 years of my life.
Wow.
But I do remember that neighborhood. We lived in a neighborhood called Hillman Gardens.
Okay.
And I can remember going, in the backyard, and it was one of those, setups where there was an alley between our house and then the houses that backed up to the alley. So both of the houses backed up to the alley.
Right.
I remember neighbors, Lorraine and families. So I have really memories of that time. And my parents were also kind of civil rights folks as well.
Okay.
So my father would go out on patrols.
And that was like the epicenter of
that was in the
civil
early
rights.
60s, yeah.
Right.
So the Klan was hard and heavy down there at that time.
Wow.
And so my father would go out on night patrols to patrol the neighborhood to keep up with other fathers and men from the neighborhood. Yeah, it was that kind of time then.
That's funny. We've never had that
Maybe
conversation.
I guess not. Yeah.
Wow. I always just thought, Memphis.
Yeah.
With Tony and
Yeah,
Alicia.
well, everybody else was born here, so it's pretty wild. And we moved back here, I think, right when I was 4.
Okay.
And then I was here until I got out of high school.
Right.
At which time I then went to New Orleans to go to
right.
college at Xavier
Right.
University. So.
Okay, so who outside of your immediate family had the biggest impact on young Arnold?
Biggest impact. That's interesting. it depends on what age you're talking about. You know,
Okay.
because
Let's talk about young Arnold. Let's say under 10 Arnold.
under 10 Arnold, I'd probably say outside of my immediate family, my next door neighbor, Don Frison, who's still one of my best friends and I talk to all the time.
Okay.
And he's a very successful person at this point. He's
Okay.
he works for Lowe's Corporation.
Okay.
And my grandfather was really impactful on all of us. My mother's father, his name was Paul Nichols, and he was a Memphis entrepreneur, grocery owner, and just a really cool guy. I mean, he was just, my grandfather, he was just really suave, you know, just wore the best kind of hats and just really just, it was very, very charming and just, and he really influenced me a lot too.
Now, what was the biggest impact he had on you that you could point your finger to and say that came directly from my grandfather?
Perhaps the entrepreneurship, you know,
Okay.
because he got that from his mother. His mother was
Okay.
a lady named Ivory Hunter,
Right.
who was old when I was 5 when we moved back here. But
Right.
she had amassed a number of properties in Memphis and Mississippi and Arkansas. She had all kinds of businesses and properties in the Douglas community, which at that time was a really, you know, thriving, active, self-contained community, you know, that had all kinds of business and everything. So she was very much an entrepreneur. She was way ahead of her time. She was kind of a hippie, actually.
Okay.
I remember her very well too.
Really?
From the time I was 5 or 6. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that is cool. So now, how did Don? Because he had a twin brother, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
yeah, Ron Frison. Yeah.
Okay. So now, how did Donald have an impact on young Arnold?
Well, and I think it was kind of reciprocal, you know,
Okay.
because we just became really tight, really quickly, you know, from
Okay.
the time I was 5 or so, and we had a lot of the same interests. We both had a lot of interest in music and sports.
Okay.
And so we, you know, played in our first band together, you know,
Okay.
all that kind of stuff. So it was just, it was really kind of a reciprocally influential kind of thing.
Okay.
Very
Now, how
much
does he
so.
influence you today?
Just that his level of achievement and everything he's done in the business world. We still really talk about everything for the most part, and I like just the way that he has, because he started like as a service team leader for Schneider National Carriers, and wound up ending up in the upper echelons of Sam's Club, Walmart, Sam's Club, and now Lowe's Corporation, where he's a I don't know what his title is, but he's like some kind of a VP way up in Lowe's.
Okay.
Yeah.
How different are you from the person you dreamed you would be as a young person?
Honestly, not very.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, that's I know it may sound crazy, but that's the truth. And maybe that's sad. I don't know.
Now, I imagine young Arnold dreaming of being a world-class tennis player. But
you know what? You
Okay.
know what? I mean, I was all over the place as a child. I mean, in terms of what even then I knew you couldn't be everything, but I was into science and sports and art and music. I acted, you know, all these kinds of things. And I knew you can't, you know, even as a child, I knew you can't reasonably all of those things. But I zeroed in on artist when I was about 7. I knew that I would be an artist of some sort.
Okay.
But it's been better than that.
Now, what's your why? Why do you get up every day and fight the good fight?
To inspire others and bring people together more than anything else. But that's my primary motivation, and just about everything I do is inspiration for others. Helping others realize their best true selves is a big part of what I do, why I do what I do.
Now, Arnold's an amazing artist, and you will see many of his works around the city. But I got one for you.
Go ahead.
When was the first time that Arnold realized that he was a black man? Hold on, real quick. Listen, we're going to come back on the journey where Brother Thompson is going to tell us when he realized that he was a brother. So stay right there. Stay tuned on the KUDZUKIAN Network, and I'm going to give Muhammad Ali on you. Don't go nowhere, because if you do, I'm going to come get you. So listen, we'll be right back. Right after this.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, And the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process. KUDZUKIAN Media Group proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on their ultimate road to success. We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson. Brought to you by the KUDZUKIAN Media Group in partnership with the Delta Boulé. Welcome back to The Journey. As you know, today we have Brother Arnold Thompson, who literally was not born in Memphis. He was born in Birmingham, Alabama. So I learned something today. But next, being that he was in the bastion of civil rights, I want to know, when did you realize you were a brother, when you were a black man?
You know, it was not while I was in Birmingham still, because my mother used to tell a story of how when I was about 3 or so that I came to her and said to her, "Negro's going to get you, Mommy."
It was something else, huh?
Yes. So I don't think I knew then.
Now why would the Negroes going to get your mommy?
Because Negroes were obviously something to be afraid of.
Oh, wow.
Right? That's why it is. So yeah.
Dang, at that age, you realize.
I had absorbed that.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is there a pivotal moment, or is there a moment in particular when you realized that?
But like I said, I didn't realize that I was the Negro at that time, you know. But it was not much longer after first grade, because I and a neighbor right down the street, my family, all of myself and all my siblings, went to parochial schools, went to Catholic schools.
Right. And now you guys are Catholic, right?
Yeah. We grew up Catholic. And we went to St. Teresa. Little Flower on Jackson and Belvedere, right? And that was my first school. That's the only grade school I ever went to, grades 1 through 8. And there was one other black kid in the class, Judy King, who lived like about 3 houses down from us on our street on Edward Avenue. And so we were the only black kids in the first grade, probably through second. But I remember a kid just shortly after school, started school. "Hey, Arnold, boy, you sure must have a lot of black paint at home."
Whoa.
Yes, so that's when that's when I really realized it, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. Let me ask another question, building on that. Memphis has kind of changed from a demographic standpoint. At one point, down Midtown in the middle of the city, there was a lot of African Americans. That wasn't the case when you were raised.
No.
So how has that dynamic changed? Seeing Memphis change to a city that's majority African American or majority black.
Black, yeah.
How has that impacted you?
You know, I'm not really sure how it's impacted me. I know because I always, you know, going to Little Flower, you know, I was always in a predominantly white school. Right. And, but I always had friends, you know, from both sides. So in that way, I never really, I always had white friends, I always had black friends. Right. And so as a kid, I didn't feel so much that I was aware of everything that was going on too, but in terms of my personal life, I didn't feel like I was in so much of a racialized situation. Like that incident in first grade happened, but it wasn't just like that being at Little Flower, right? I mean, that was not the Little Flower experience, you know, that you're hearing that kind of stuff all the time, you know. But I certainly was aware. I was 8 years old when Dr. King was killed, you know, and I felt the heaviness of that for sure, you know, and seeing the demographic shift that you're talking about was interesting because around Little Flower and everything, that was mostly Jewish and middle class, upper middle class, some wealthy white people, you know, up through Valentine Evergreen, up through Midtown, all of that. So we would see the synagogue was right around the corner from our house, actually, Baron Hirsch Synagogue. was just half a mile from our house. So I did see that shift that you're talking about for sure. And then the Jewish community, for the most part, then moved on kind of more eastward, and then the synagogue, closed and went out that way as well. But it was kind of a gradual thing that just was kind of creeping that you didn't really notice, when you were kind of growing up in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's go back. Let's go back to childhood. You moved to Memphis. Y'all moved to Memphis. Little Flower, and I guess after that it was Memphis Catholic.
Exactly.
Tell us about the home life then. I know a couple of your brothers and sisters, but
our home life was pretty idyllic, I have to say. Growing up on Edward Avenue, the street we lived on had actually, and I didn't know this until I heard an audio interview with my mother.
Okay.
That did at Rhodes a couple of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, and she told the story of how the street that we lived on, that we moved into in 1965, when my parents built this house, on Edward Avenue, which is between University and McLean, just kind of north of Valentine, and that area had been developed like Valentine, Evergreen. There was all these new houses that had been developed really for white families, for middle-class white families. But Edward is kind of down that hill on McLean as you go north on McLean.
Right.
And as it turns out, and those houses that they had begun to build on Edward, the developer, were also for those middle-class white families. But it was down the hill too much, and it seemed to not be connected to the rest of the community, so they could not sell them to the white families.
Oh, wow.
And so it wound up being an enclave for more middle-class black folks who could buy those houses at that time. So there were a lot of postal workers, school teachers, a lot of school teachers. My mother was a social worker. My father worked for Universal Life Insurance Company. So there were a lot of folks black families like that lived on that street. But I didn't know until I heard that audio, that tape of my mother, that was the story for how Edward was the street. So that was a new construction house my folks bought in 1965 for $17,250.
Wish I could buy a house of
Yeah, I mean, a 7-room, 3-bedroom house with a nice backyard and front yard, and brick and.
Well, let's talk about you and your upbringing. Did Arnold ever get a whooping?
Oh man, Arnold got punched. What do you mean?
What would make Arnold Thompson this mild man?
I couldn't understand it either, frankly. But I mean, my mother, my parents were, really kind of sticklers for, proper behavior and speech and everything. They weren't oppressive. I don't mean to make it sound like that at all. And it was pretty idyllic, as I said, on Edward. It was very much a community. It was everybody knew each other. It was that thing.
What happened?
Everybody knew each other.
When the last time Arnold got a whooping?
No, the last time? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That punch was probably the last time.
Really?
Yeah, that was,
How old were you?
14, 15.
14, 15.
Yeah.
Who was it, dad or mom?
Yeah, it was my father rather. Yeah.
Your father. What made him haul off and punch you?
Because it wasn't even my fault. My sisters who used to all like just torture me in as many different ways they can. My two, and they locked me out of the house for something, just to have a laugh. It was during the summer, and so I'm just knocking on the window. Let me in. You should be knocking on the window, and my fist went through the window.
Oh. Wow.
Right. So my father got home, and before he could hear an explanation, Arnold did it.
Wow.
Arnold did it. So that's the last I remember anyway.
Now, in your teen years, what was it like going to Memphis Catholic? What was that period like, and was there any, because that also went through a tremendous change in demographics as well.
Yeah, Catholic was probably about.
Was there any challenges there at Catholic?
Not really. Once again, it was a similar environment to Little Flower. It was racially mixed. And Little Flower became more mixed. By the time I was in the 8th grade, there were a lot more black kids at Little Flower by that time. And then Catholic was pretty much the same.
Okay.
And it was so it was easy to make friends and be involved involved in whatever you wanted to extracurricularly, all that. I played tennis there. I did, and developed everything kind of that there's still my interest. I've always had interest in languages. I've always, known I was going to be an artist. So I mean, that was foregone in my mind while I was at Catholic.
Right.
But I, still, explored the things that I was interested in, music and acting. I mean, all those things. I was in speech club and, just all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you had a charmed life as a young man.
One thing I'll say from my parents, I didn't have a lot of enrichment lessons. They, I didn't get guitar lessons or I didn't, weren't out, any of that kind. It was just like, but they did not put any kind of shackles on me. I'll give them that. They just let me just run free in terms of where my interest went, and they didn't try to contain me or try to push me in any kind of way or anything.
You got an older brother. Was it the same situation with Tony? And
I think they were like that with all of us. I believe they just kind of let you decide whatever it was that you wanted to do and head that way, and that's what I did. And
now, how much was that based on the fact that your grandmother was quite the hippie?
It was somewhat that way because my mother is probably where the creative stuff comes from in me, more than my father. She was this person that was a Renaissance person for real. She could do just about anything.
Right.
I think you knew my mother's son too.
Right.
So she was a creator and very much a maker, just an empath in a tremendous way. In the way that she just had scores of surrogate children of all ages, up to almost as old as she was, but she was extremely creative, a very, very creative spirit, and so I think that kind of came from her grandmother in a lot of ways too.
And you and your mom, talking about your mom, you guys worked together on art projects.
We did.
One of them being at First Tennessee back in their headquarters.
Exactly.
Robert R. Church.
Yes.
And one was
Ida B. Wells.
Ida B. Wells.
Yeah.
Up on the wall, the mixed media art.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out because it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So what was it like working directly with your mom as far as on art projects?
Wonderful. I mean, it really, really was. It was awesome to be able to, because my mother is, my mother was very much a night owl. And so my mother was in her 70s when we were working on this, and she would come over and we'd stay up all night working on it, and talking crazy, and she's kind of saw the kind of weird TV shows that I would watch at 2 in the morning, and it was really, really good, and just really working collaboratively like that on those really great projects, and just the honor of being able to do Robert Church Jr. and do Ida B. Wells was great. I mean, I'll never forget that experience. It was invaluable.
It was beautiful. I actually got to see it in its development.
Yeah.
And absolutely amazing work. So you get adulthood. You actually got married not too long ago.
I did.
As an older married man, what has marriage taught you? Because you were single for a long time.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Marriage has taught me that you can't sweat the small stuff.
Okay, ain't that the truth?
I thought I knew that already, but no. I've learned you really cannot sweat the small stuff.
Now, along with being a Renaissance man, he was also an international playboy. He was. I thought he was 007, the black one. So.
Come on, man! You don't get me in trouble here. It's not the way that everybody saw me, Larry. Okay.
So, what are some of the things that, outside of learning that you don't sweat the small stuff, what would you share with someone that's looking to get married? What would you tell them about the experience of marriage and after living so long as a solo?
Yeah, well, I think in my opinion, you should only get married to someone that you can be true to yourself with.
Right.
I mean, that it just has to be someone who, you all may not agree on everything all the time. You may be very different in a lot of ways, but as long as they are comfortable with you being you, then I think that's a relationship that can make it.
Right.
But if you're trying to be something else for someone else, and maybe not even sure who you are in the first place, which is another thing. That's my other advice to young people: is find out who you are. Right. But I think our relationships are it's key that it be between two people who may not be the same. They may be very opposite in terms of personality structure, but as long as they accept each other for who they are, right, I think that's a relationship that has a really good chance of making it.
Now, I would say Arnold Thompson has lived a very full life. What's next for you? Where do you see your life going beyond where you are today?
Well, I think I want to continue to find new ways to inspire people. What does that mean, to inspire? That means that like with my artwork, what I'm looking for with my artwork is to create an intimate experience for the viewer, so that it's experiential. It's not detached. It's not them looking at a fixed piece of art on the wall, but it is kind of I want to create that intimacy where it kind of envelops them and then sets off and provokes an internal journey.
Right. Where did that come from? When did you find that purpose in inspiration and art? Is that something that you knew from an early age? Is that something that developed over time? And know that you're talking to young people. So
right.
So when should they look for that inspiration?
As early as possible. As I said, I could feel and knew that I would be an artist, as a lifestyle, as a career, when I was 7.
Oh, wow.
I knew it. But I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to just continue to develop the other things that I've really connected to in life, like music and tennis, and to have careers in those areas as well.
Right.
And so that's just been a real big blessing to be able to just continue. But art has been the foundation around which all that has been built, right. And that's what taught me that everything that I do is to inspire others. So as a tennis coach or tennis teaching professional, that's what I love to do. I love helping people reach their potential as it relates to tennis.
Right.
That just really gets me off,
Wow.
And so it's the same with the art. Music is just such an incredible inspiration to me. Music just takes me so many other places. So I know that that's a vehicle for, like, when I'm playing music, that I know that it can inspire others as well. So it's just, but I think art, creativity, and that's why I kind of sometimes, I think of, people say I'm an artist. I just kind of think of myself as a kind of a creative liver.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Do you see, let me ask you, any regrets? Anything that you would like to do? I know you're a golfer too, so any mulligans? Mulligans?
Yeah, well, that I haven't been able to take more golf lessons would be my first mulligan, because I really do like golf. But no, the only thing that I would halfway throw out as a mulligan, if it's even, and I'm just trying to have one here,
okay,
because it is, over the years, so many people, particularly as it relates to art, have asked me, wow, your art is awesome, so deep, but why are you in Memphis? Why do you stay in Memphis? I face that question a lot. Why aren't you somewhere that would obviously be more receptive to what you're doing in terms of bigger art, type of art center, art place with more art and culture? And the answer is because I just have always felt like Memphis has always been, and it's still developing into, Memphis could be so much more than it is, and I've always wanted to be a part of helping it to develop into that true potential that Memphis, because Memphis is an awesome place as it is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But there's still like so much more in the well.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
And so, has it crossed my mind that might I have been better off in terms of my art career if I had moved to New York or San Francisco or Miami or, New Orleans, stayed in New Orleans, or Chicago or somewhere else? Yeah, that's crossed. So that would be my one mulligan. Okay. But I can't go so far as to call it a regret. I don't regret having stayed in Memphis as my base. I just don't.
All right, you're going back to that young Arnold sitting there eating a bowl of cereal in Birmingham. What would you tell him? You come in the door, you know it's you, he knows it's you, that it's him. What would you say to him?
Wow. Just I hate to be redundant, but just be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to yourself, because as you walk through life, there are going to be all kinds of detractors, snipers, people who are just jealous, just down and just straight up haters. People see you, particularly if you, as you're growing up, you're self-contained, confident,
right?
And carry yourself like you're comfortable in your own skin.
Right.
That's very off-putting to a lot of people.
Right.
And it can make you want to withdraw from that. From being who you are, because some people who react negatively to you, many people, it's because of your confidence. Okay, they've got internal issues, and they see someone who is carrying themselves with ease, confident, perhaps articulate, just speaks with confidence, and so what you asked me what it's like being a black man, or maybe you didn't ask me that, but one thing that I have, I don't think that I'm an egotist. I don't think I'm, narcissistic or anything like that. But I do think I'm confident. I know that I'm articulate, and I think that, and I'm competent at the things that I do. And I think when you are competent, confident, and articulate, particularly as a black male, it's very off-putting to many people.
Wow. And
that winds up being equal to arrogant. Right. For so many people, and I know you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Exactly and that winds up equating to arrogance. So many people will see you carrying yourself with ease and just just speaking with confidence, and you can be very gregarious and giving. You know what I mean? And all and it doesn't matter. It makes them mad. Right. And so they will respond and react negatively to you in a lot of ways, and you can't let that change you. That's my point. If you know who you are, and you're carrying, and you're not bothering anybody, you're going through your life, and you're a good person, and you're doing your thing. Don't let people's negative reactions to your confidence, you're being comfortable in your own skin, make you think you need to change what you're doing.
Wow. So listen, that reminds me of what the great philosopher by the name of Deion Sanders said. Don't let my confidence offend your insecurities.
That's exactly the same thing. I hadn't heard that quote from Prime Time, but I concur wholeheartedly.
Listen, we've had another great Memphis icon, Brother Arnold Thompson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man, for having me, Larry.
Being on the journey. And listen, I told you, we're going to keep bringing them because Memphis is full of them. You have no reason not to be an exceptional individual and share all of this that God has given you with the rest of the world. Listen, till next time.
Amen.
I'm Larry Robinson, and for our guest, Arnold Thompson, this has been The Journey. Come back. We're going to keep bringing them. See you soon. Thank you to our partners at Nike's Black Community Commitment. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the KUDZUKIAN app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the KUDZUKIAN Network.